Zatanna, Bring Down the House, issue one. Mariko Tamaki writing with Javier Rodriguez on the art. So we are fans of Tamaki on this
Mm-hmm.
show, and we're looking forward to this one. It's the newest Black Label book, which, yeah, this is the newest Black Label book they've announced, because everything else they've announced
Yes.
is Elseworlds. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if the line's continuing, if we're going to
Yeah.
have both going forward. But I don't know. It's kind of weird because it comes and goes in these weird little spurts where
Yeah.
you'll get 3 or 4 books announced, and then it'll feel like half a year goes by without any new announcements. To the point where I infamously said this line is dead, and then within 2 weeks of saying that, they announced like 6 new books. So anyway, yeah, so this is Zatanna. There's a flashback at the start, which also turns out to be like a recurring dream slash nightmare she's having. But she is working in Vegas as a matinee style magician, although doesn't use that word. She doesn't do
She does
magic. She
tricks.
does tricks, which is something a whore does for money and candy. So yeah, the flashback here is her as a kid doing the whole cups trick with the balls.
Mm-hmm.
But she loses the balls, and the kids start making fun of her, and she gets all upset. And she looks like a kid, but she still kind of got like a kid's version of her hat on,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
magician's hat. But she goes home and tries to ask her father to say, "Hey, you promised you'd teach me how to do magic." And he's sitting all ominously at his desk.
Zatara looks scary as hell sitting behind that desk.
Yeah, I was actually quite glad to find out this was all sort of a recurring dream, because it felt very,
Mm-hmm.
uh, stylized in a good way. Like, it looks good, but it,
Yeah.
it definitely had a kind of a
I'm
vibe to it.
I'm wondering if though too we're gonna see this something like this did happen, and this is just her recollections of them, as an adult.
Oh yeah, no, I think it probably is like a twisted version of a memory
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the end of it where she gets so
Mm-hmm.
mad as they're making fun of her again. I mean, it cuts away before we see what happened, but later
Yeah.
on we see that in the end of the dream, she actually made them all disappear with magic. Like, she killed all these
Mm-hmm.
kids, basically. I assume that didn't actually happen, but maybe there's
No.
something, or maybe it did happen. Maybe that's why she's so against doing actual magic in this
Yeah.
story. Uh,
Yeah, because there's a debris field from whatever she did. Like there's
yeah.
pieces of bikes and shoes and everything else.
Yeah, so maybe she's so determined to not do
Mm-hmm.
magic because she did think she hurt people when she was young
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. Or maybe we'll find out Zatara just planted that memory in her to keep her from doing magic or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and if you look at what he's looking at, the book that he's looking at looks very like dark, magic-y, almost satanic too, which doesn't usually gel with the Zatara that I'm familiar with
Yeah, so
too. So I wonder if this is something that's also because we talk about a stalker and a dark presence throughout the book. I'm wondering if this is something that's poisoning her memories as well.
oh
You know,
sure. Yeah.
so
So the art here in this dream slash flashback is there's lots of empty white space, and the colors are kind of like purple and pink sort of
very
surrounding it.
psychedelic.
Yeah. But there's a lot of negative space, and it kind of uses that. Like the house is mostly the white negative space, but there's like
Mm-hmm.
obviously color for the roof and the various like highlights around it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the art there's kind of like that. And then when she wakes up though in present day, it's a bit more normal, where you've got I mean, it's definitely sort of a muted color palette, which I really like
Mm-hmm.
actually. But it's
do.
definitely going for more of a, oh no, we're in a sunny climate now. The sun coming through the window. It's very much more
I feel like
natural.
I've been to those apartments that she's living at. Like
Well,
that is very much a style in Vegas.
yeah, you do live in Vegas, so you
Uh-huh.
probably getting some triggered actions
Yeah.
here from some of the things she
Mhm.
encounters here.
I-
She's
And I will say that they've made to show Vegas the Stratosphere Tower. That's become an icon throughout. So I appreciate that. That they are trying. It's more than just the casinos on the skyline. So
yeah. So she basically is she's getting up. She's messing around with things. She's complaining that her bunnies are all acting up. They must have been up late watching TV.
Mhm.
So she goes for a run, and she starts jogging through kind of a desert road. But the fun thing here is that as she's running through the desert, she notices that her shadow seems to be chased by another shadow with claws.
Uh-huh.
But then when she sort
Yeah.
of turns and looks around, it's gone. And she's like, well, that was weird. But in the very last panel, you can just see at the bottom of the page there, it's almost like the shadow that was chasing her shadow is coming up out of the ground.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely got like a sort of dark magic, supernatural kind of vibe, like she's been haunted or something like that.
Yep.
So good fun. But yeah, we get that she's working a shitty job at a casino. She's doing like a magic act, doing tricks. But it's, she's intentionally turning down jobs at bigger casinos. She's telling this woman to get lost. I mean, in a nice enough way, but she doesn't want the job. She wants this crappy thing. But what I like here, the art's really good here because she does this like walk past all the people playing slot machines at the casino, and the art does a really great job of pointing out that one of the characters is watching her because you see her turn her head. And sure enough, later on, when she's doing her magic act, she points out that this woman's in the crowd and she's been coming and seeing a lot of her shows. And I'm like, yeah, I noticed her. I noticed her like tailing her out in the casino. So I thought that was a really good little subtle touch in the art. It didn't feel too... I mean, she does say, geez, like she's noticed something as well. But even before that panel, I already kind of noticed, that was a really good example of that, I thought.
Yep. Well, I like that too because everyone is so focused even on the... So they'll do the people sitting at the machines. We're looking at them from behind, but right above them we see their faces, and so it also has them at the direction that they're looking. So there's two different people that look at Zatanna at any given point. And yeah, it was a very good piece of visual storytelling here.
Yeah, maybe the guy will turn it to be someone as well. Although I could also just buy that he's turning his head because he thinks she's hot.
Yeah, because it's Zatanna.
But yeah, so this woman with short hair is kind of like watching her, and it's like, okay, so that's like a nice little tease for later. But yeah, so we find out this is the crappy gig. Like everyone who comes to see her show basically gets a free ticket for parking at the local car park.
And a water park.
The water park as well. Yeah.
So
it's like a complimentary thing. So they do a whole big thing here where she's peeking out the curtain and she's getting ready to go out. She sees this woman in the trench coat, and it's all thing. And it also shows us that whenever this woman comes, she's in a different outfit. So there's this page where she's looking out, and you see all the different outfits this woman's worn. So in one, she's got like star sunglasses. One, she's got like a shirt and tie on. One, she's got like the Audrey Hepburn hat on. One, she's got like a punk haircut and like a spike collar. Yeah. So this woman's a master of disguise, although she's not disguising that well. But
no. So and she showed up 7 times. 7 in magic is a big thing too as well.
But she's wrong though. She corrects her later and says she's actually been 12 times, and she's only noticed her the 7 times.
Right.
So that's important. But you get this big 2-page layout where you get the now presenting the show you've been waiting for, The Great Zatanna, and it's this bright, colourful 2-page spread of her jumping out into the lights. And then the very next page is a panel of her looking out of an audience where it's like maybe a dozen or so people like spread out throughout the crowd. And she does her magic show, and it's all a little bit sad. She's just doing these simple tricks.
This is the complete opposite of the Zatanna we're used to, right?
Yes.
Like every time we see her show up in Superman or Batman or whatever else, it's always she's playing for legions of adoring fans. She is like the greatest magician, that works in the DC universe. Plus, she's also a very accomplished magic user as well.
Yeah, Yeah, this older woman comes up with her granddaughter afterwards to get an autograph, and she's happy to do it. But like the daughter's like wanting to know, like, why aren't you a magician? Why don't you say the magic word? And they're basically saying, why didn't you say abracadabra, right?
Right.
And then that's when it flashes back to the end of the dream, where you see that, the one time she said the magic word, whether it was abracadabra or not, is
whatever it was,
yeah. But these kids run in fear, and there's a flash of bright light, and it's like the kids are just gone. So it's really ominous, like, something really bad happened. But it really sets up this idea that, if this did really happen, she's this kind of like, like magician who doesn't want to do the magic because it's like not even a history of violence. It's more like, no. She once did something that killed people, so she can never do it again, even though she's going to have to, obviously, in the course of the story, because bad stuff's going to happen. So at our next show, she sees this woman back in the crowd again, and she intentionally goes over to do audience participation and goes to her and starts asking her questions. And it's like, oh, you've been a bunch of times. And she's like, yeah, I've been 12 times. And she starts saying that she doesn't like tricks. She likes magic, which is obviously the opposite of what Zatanna's been saying. Is that she doesn't do magic, she does tricks. So this woman's clearly here to try and like like brings Zatanna out of her comfort. And right as she's saying this big monstrous entity made up of curtains or some shit comes out of the stage, looking all evil. And
it's almost like it's made up of all of her props that are behind her on the stage.
oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's a variety of colors and stuff.
Yeah.
So the audience start freaking out. Fire starts spreading throughout. And this woman takes off her glasses and she reveals, because she's had sunglasses on every time I've seen her. And she takes off the sunglasses and it reveals that she's got just full white eyes. And Zatanna's like, what the hell? And it's like, hey, you're Zatara's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You need to like use some of your, and this is where we see more of the end of the flashback slash dream again, is we see like just the smoke that's left where the kids were, and there's like this like spiral of like burned grass or whatever it is on the ground, just sort of really setting up that something happened. But yeah, but then this is where this woman, whoever she is, says, yeah, I know your father's dead, you killed him. And that's the cliffhanger at the end. So yeah, we're dealing with a Zatanna with a different backstory here. It's very much not in continuity, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So.
And well, I was thinking reading this, I was like, is this just a different version of Zatanna? That's why she's coming and checking, and because like she says that she likes magic, not tricks, right? But then when she took off the glasses and her eyes were different and all that other stuff, because I thought maybe it was playing with the duality of things, you know, and whatnot.
I think at the very least, it's given us a Zatanna who's repressing her magic abilities because bad things happened in the past.
Yep.
And she seems to have a lot of trauma from whatever happened in the past, you know, whether it's these kids or just their father or both.
Right.
But yeah, clearly something's coming for her, maybe because of her past, and whoever this woman is that's coming to help her. Like, this is probably a character we're going to know when we find out who it is, I would expect, but I think this issue does a good job, one, because it has great art, which is obviously a big plus, but I think it does a good job of setting up who this Zatanna is and where she is right now. I think it does a good job of teasing something monstrous coming for her. I think that scene where she's jogging in the shadows, chasing her shadow, is effectively simple and creepy, which is cool. So it's kind of I wouldn't say it's a horror story, but there's definitely horror elements in here, which is cool.
And in the way too that whatever it's like the unseen horror on top of it too, because for all we know, that's also her. I mean, it looks like there's claws and stuff, but maybe it's something that's protecting her as well. You know, keeping her along the right path where she doesn't need to use the magic, right? Because it's going to unlock something, and maybe this lady wants her to unlock whatever, you know, something like that. There's a lot of things that are at play still. I just love in the art. Not only like the flat colors and all that type of stuff, just the layouts, just the way like that double page that you talked about, like the Great Zatanna, just the way that everything's laid out on there, almost like a poster or like a wraparound cover. Like there's a lot of fun to be had there, and even with, you know, we talked about the scene at the slot machines and stuff, but there's just a flow to the way that the art works. So just a real fun book. Like I already figured, because we do like Tamaki, I already kind of figured I was going to enjoy this. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it this much.
I mean, I'm not surprised, really. I think the quality is about where I'd expect. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And I think what Tamaki is good at doing is just, like, I think this, along with being super, which is what it reminds me of in some ways, is that it feels like a really good standalone story that could be a new book. This could be a new character. It could be an indie book from Image or something like that. But it just happens to be a DC Comics character. But the way it sort of takes time to set up where she is right now, what she's going through, and that she's repressing something, it sets up enough stuff where you're like, okay, like the fact that this is Zatanna almost doesn't really matter, at least not yet. I'm sure it'll feel like it touches on some cool Zatanna stuff as we go. But for now, it's just like, no, you've introduced me to a unique version of this character that we're just going to discover, and like we're going to get a lot of her, who she is, throughout this story. And on top of that, you've got the art, you've got the bright, vivid colors that are kind of popping off every single page. The flashback's very different, of course, with the more sort of muted purples and magentas and things like that. But yeah, I mean, no, I really enjoyed it. I think it reads really well. I think the craft of the comic is really solid. You know, it's all very much straight simple box panels for the most part, other than the page that's meant to be a poster, and other than the flashbacks where everything's kind of bleeding into negative space. So the flashbacks feel very different to the present day stuff. And the one time that the more simple structure of all just the boxes break down is when that big monster steps out towards the end, where all of a sudden you've got all these angles in the panels, you've got weird shapes because her world is completely changing. And the next few pages are kind of like that, where there's like, you know, wavy lines between the panels as opposed to actual regular things. So, no, really good. Also, subtle thing at the end, her eye color changes right at the end of the book from blue to yellow. Interesting. I don't know if that's maybe the reflection of the fire that's been spewed out from the monster, but
I mean, maybe, but it feels a lot more. Like, it doesn't feel just like fire. It feels like something else has been activated.
Sure.
You know. So I was trying to see what else this artist has worked on, Javier Rodriguez, and like a lot of stuff over at Marvel, but also he was a colorist before, and he did Batgirl Year One, did the colors. So if he's doing all the arts.
That does not surprise me, actually, because this coloring is very similar to that now that I'm thinking about it.
So I'm looking at a lot of this. Like he worked at DC in the early 2000s doing a lot of coloring and all of that. So so I was trying to see where else I could enjoy some of this art, but this looks like it's his first major like artwork for DC, which is great. It's a great, you know, welcome.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, what are you bringing down the house with the score wise?
I am giving this an 8.5.
Yeah, it's boring, but I'll just agree with you because it sounds right. It sounds right.